Oops, I was talking and I was muted. Check my sound. Oops, I was talking and I was muted. Okay. Oh, shoot. Did I turn it off? Make sure I didn't turn myself off. Shoot, did I turn it off? Make sure I didn't turn myself off. Okay, so here we go. Today we are going to be talking about modern day slavery. And well, that's the title I chose. But what this is about is the couple that adopted the five black children and had them, hey Deborah C, and had them working as slaves pretty much. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. Now, the funny thing about this is that I don't have I have not seen like a lot of people talking about this. I would think that people would be outraged and this would be like all over the place, but it's actually not as all over the place as I think it should be. And so I decided I wanted to talk about that as well as transracial adoption. Now, for me, I'll have to say in my younger days, my teenage days and stuff, I was against transracial adoption. And if there's anyone who does not know what that is, it's when a couple of another persuasion adopts children of a persuasion different from them. So, and in this case, we have a white couple. And hey, Mr. Stronghold, how are you? In this case, we have a white couple who adopted these five black children. So, as I was saying, in my younger days, I did not, I was against it. And not because I'm prejudiced or anything like that, but because I just always felt that you can't get life's experience when you are with a parent. And when I say parent, I don't mean like, say you have a woman who is one race and she has a baby by a man of another race. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who is not black, is not in the black community, doesn't know a whole lot about black people, and they go run off and adopt these black children. And I had a problem with that, especially back in the day when Madonna went over there to Africa and broke all kinds of rules and laws over there to adopt her children. So I had a problem with it. But as I got older, I decided that, you know, these kids need love. You have so many babies in foster care, so many um, middle aged children, teenagers, or, 6 to elementary school age children in foster care and never getting adopted. And that must feel terrible. So then I began to say, okay, well, as long as they're loved and taken care of, I don't care who adopts them and exposed to their own culture. Because I just, I mean, you can be a white male and adopt a black male child, but what you cannot do is teach them or give them the experiences or the things that they need to know as a black male. I mean, I'm just sorry, there's just no way. So, anyway, I did change my mind and said, yeah, as long as they're loved, they're taken care of, they're exposed to cultural things and whatnot, not a problem for me. And then this case comes about, and it's got me sort of rethinking the entire thing. So if there's anyone who hasn't heard about this, this is a couple. They are in West Virginia, in Kanawha County. Now, My first problem with them as adoptive parents is she is 62 and her husband is 63. And they have now, one thing I don't know and couldn't find out is how long, when did they start adopting these children, how long they had them, or any of those things. I couldn't find anything concrete on that. But what I will say is that, her name is uh, Jana or Janine Whitefeather. She's 62, and he is Donald Lance, and he is 63. The children in question and of this story are 6, 9, 11, 14, and 16. I'm sorry. It's one thing if you have your children late in life and you have them and you raise them. What are these people who are 62 years old doing being able to adopt a 6-year-old child? I'm sorry if this is considered ageism, but that's the question that I have. Why do they have, these younger children? So, anyway, back in October of 2023, and this is the most ironic part, even all of the news footage and stuff that I have, it starts at June or like a couple of weeks ago. These people were arrested and charged with 17 count indictment for their treatment of these children back in October 2023. And I mean, there just was not a lot of news about this. And what they were doing is, well, let me say this. So this was October 2023. They had their bond hearing. These people are people of means. They have money and everything. So they were able to pay their $200,000 bond and get out. And they were able to do this by selling property. Well, so anyway, they went back to court again and received some more counts here in June. And they include human trafficking of a minor child, the use of a minor child in false labor, and child neglect, creating substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death. Now, I don't know. Hey, hey, bank. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if a child actually did um, pass away, you know, that they adopted. I don't know. That has not been, there's a lot of stuff in this that have not been explained. So at their last arraignment, when they went with the new charges, the judge is like, hey, this is egregious and I'm upping your bond to $500,000. So now they are, I guess, sitting in jail because supposedly they, they sold their property to make the first bond, and now I don't think they can make this bond. But these children, people had been calling protective services, hey, worldwide collaborations, people had been calling protective services. And hold on, my dog, I'm sorry. Well, I can continue to talk. People have been calling protective services on this couple, and apparently nothing was being done. So finally, two neighbors decided to call the police. So the police go on this property and they're looking for these children. Nobody's home. Well, they ended up finding out where two of the children were located. And those two children were locked in a barn outside. This barn had no air conditioning, um, no bathroom. I believe that they used a camping toilet. And if you don't know what a camping toilet is, I guess it's okay when you go camping, but that's not something that I want as my bathroom. on a regular everyday basis, and it's not maintained properly. Because I know, like a lot of people get tiny houses and they use composting toilets and stuff, but there's also still a difference between a composting toilet and a camping toilet. So, but anyway, so this is what they found. And they also found, they were locked, they could not get out. According to the children and according to all of the police who were on this property, these children couldn't get out. The police were out there for 2 hours until they finally decided to break the door down to get in, to get to these children. There's no air conditioning. Let me see, just nothing. The bare bones, I guess you could say. And then let me see what else. Let me look at my little list. So that's where two of the children were found. And then there was one child found in the house. And let me look at my notes because I want to get this right. And they don't now, it was the two teenagers, it was the 14-year-old. They're not saying how old the other one was that was found in the barn, but that is, I think, her biological brother from what I gathered. I'm assuming that that's was the 16-year-old. So we have those two, the 14 and the 16-year-old, out in this barn. And then they go in the house, they find another child. They did not give that child's age, but they found another child in the main residence, locked in it says unprotected loft alone. And they said the loft was about 15 feet high. So they said the other two children weren't on the property. Now, they have not said where those other two children were, but at the time that the police were there, they weren't on the property. And of course, all of these children have been removed out of their care. Um, so we've got two children locked in a barn outside. We've got a child locked in an unprotected loft on the inside. And these caretakers are nowhere in sight. And the thing of it is that the police, they were there, like I said, for 2 hours. And in 2 hours, still nobody came home. But anyway, um, it said that, that these children had to work the farmland, I guess, take care of the house and, things like that. And ironically enough, before these children, be- before this couple was arrested, these children had, I'm not the children, the couple had no prior arrest or anything. And, the teens, in addition to being made to do all of these chores and stuff like that, the ones that were locked in the barn, they said that they weren't allowed in the house. Now, I don't mean if that meant ever or if that meant, they were on some type of punishment and couldn't go in the house anymore, but they were made to sleep in the barn on the concrete floor, no mats. The barn also, it had no electrical outlets. And the police said that the teens were very dirty and they had an odor, and they also had open sores on their feet. So if everything that I've said so far is not bad enough, this is the condition that they were found in. And they have not said anything about the condition that the child was in that they found, or the um, the child that they found in the house in this unprotected loft. So what I want to do now is go ahead and share the screen. Deborah C says, I often wonder about the adoptive black son of the current U.S. Speaker of the House. The looks out of place. Where did he come from? They live in Louisiana. Just saying. That's interesting. The U.S. Speaker of the House. I was not aware of that. Now I'm gonna have to look into that. Because that's very interesting. I did not know that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share this screen. Y'all know how we do this part. I'm a share, and I want to get into these news reports because me telling you about this doesn't do as much justice as seeing it yourself. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Let's see how fast I can do this tonight because I am getting good bank. If you still out there listening, you couldn't tell me nothing last night. I was doing this and doing it and doing it. Let me see. Where is YouTube at? That would be here. Now it says I'm sharing this. There I go. There I go. There I go. There I go. Now we're gonna go with this story first. And this story was 2 weeks ago. Are you wait, I got premium. I should not be seeing this stuff. What are these people? What?
A Sissonville couple accused of human trafficking and forced labor of adopted children, including 2 teenagers who were found locked in a barn in Sissonville. Well, they're back in jail.
Now, during their arraignment this afternoon, Judge Mary Claire Akers significantly increased the bonds for Gene Whitefeather and Donald Lance. Anna Saunders joins us live at the studio tonight with the reason. Anna?
Hey, Gina, before setting their bonds to $500,000 cash each, Judge Akers said she has never seen an indictment quite like this, and that not only alleges the trafficked Black children, adopting them from shelters and foster care, forcing them to work, but that they specifically targeted them.
Can y'all hear that? I think my things went. I'm not sure if y'all let me know if y'all can hear this talking because it sounds like you can't to me. And bald-headed heathen, transracial adoption is when you have, for example, a white family who adopts Black children. Any one race that adopts another race of children. Okay, so we'll go ahead. I was just concerned because I didn't think y'all could hear this. Okay.
Because of their race. Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance came in on their own for their arraignments, but left in cuffs after Judge Mary Claire Akers set their bonds at $500,000, more than double what they had already paid.
And I don't think I've ever seen an indictment like this in all of my time. It alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race, and their use as basically slaves from what the indictment alleges. Along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injury or death, I don't find the bond to be sufficient.
Whitefeather and Lance were first arrested last October when a welfare check turned into the discovery of 2 teens apparently locked in a shed where investigators said they lived in deplorable conditions behind the Sissonville home. One other kid was found inside the house and 2 others were not home, all adopted by the couple. The indictment brought more than a dozen new charges against them alleging human trafficking and forced labor, also civil rights violations, as investigators believe they targeted these children specifically from a shelter because they were Black, forcing them to work as slaves. Whitefeather and Lance were originally in Washington State, and it is alleged they brought the children with them to Sissonville when they moved.
Counts 9 through 12 allege the use of forced labor, which I read as slavery.
Bond was initially set at $200,000 cash, and they were both able to post it. Prosecutors have said in a new complaint for forfeiture, the couple sold a $725,000 80-acre ranch in Washington State and sold their Sissonville home to post bond, and they believe both of these properties were paid for through trafficking. That will be decided in a separate court matter, but because of this, prosecutors say they found discrepancies in the financial affidavit Lance filled out for a court-appointed attorney, leading to a new charge on his indictment.
Some of the information on his face is inaccurate.
Lance had to fill out a new affidavit today as the 2 were taken back into custody. Now, the next time these 2 are scheduled to appear in court is for their scheduled trial in September. Prosecutors noted there are volumes of evidence in this case for all sides to go through. Now, in terms of the bond issue with how the original bonds were paid for, that is to be worked out at a later date. Live in the studio Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News. We have more
Um,
great Eyewitness News investigates right here.
ooh,
Subscribe and hit the bell notification to have the latest uploads delivered straight to you.
okay, bald-headed heathen. This is the thing. This is what the conversation is. We are talking about this couple who apparently sought out these black children so that they could treat them cruel. I know cruelly is not a word, but to treat them in this manner and use them as forced labor and all of the things. Now, we're talking about that and transracial adoptions because we're just getting a conversation started. Back in my teenage days, I had said earlier, I was against this transracial adopting. And, now with the story coming out, I'm kind of maybe questioning it. So that's what it is. It's just a conversation. I don't know if you've been over here before, but this is what we do. We have a grown up conversation about things that are true crime. So, that's all. Now, this is another news story. This is not very long, but oh. Somebody gonna get a letter from me because I'm not supposed to have commercials.
The adoptive parents of 3 children are in jail today after Kanawha County deputies said 2 teens were found locked inside a barn. Hannah Klein breaks down the investigation after deputies say they received a 911 call from someone concerned about the kids. A stunning find in Sissonville has led to the arrest of 2 adoptive parents.
You're being charged with a felony, child neglect, or getting risk of injury.
Donald Lance and Jean Whitefeather now in jail as their children are now with CPS. It started on Monday when deputies got a call just before 6 o'clock in the evening. The 2 children were being locked in a barn at this home on Cheyenne Lane in Sissonville.
They weren't able to locate any guardians or parental figures or anybody around the residence or the barn, and started having a conversation with 2 children that were inside the barn.
Deputies eventually forced their way into the barn, where they said they found a 16-year-old girl and 14-year-old boy inside a 20 by 14-foot room. Investigators say the teens had no way to get out of the shed, with no running water, no bathroom. The girl told deputies their parents had brought them food around 6 o'clock that morning, but said her and her brother weren't allowed in the house and were locked in the barn for long periods every day. Eyewitness News spoke to neighbors who were afraid to go on camera, but claimed multiple families called police about the children's safety several times, and they are thankful they are now safe.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty bad case. I mean, it's any type of situation like this, it's not really comparable. A horrific condition, like, it's just not how you want or how you would even expect children to be raised or been taken care of.
Lance and Whitefeather eventually showed up at the home. They're now charged with child neglect, creating substantial risk of injury. The mother admitted the children were left in the shed, but reportedly told deputies they, quote, liked it.
They're trying to, get the children back in better living conditions, better placement, and the detectives will continue to investigate and build this case.
In Sissonville, Hannah Klein, Eyewitness News. Hannah, thank you. And deputies said a 3rd child who was about 5 or 6 years old was found alone in the main home. And the child was found crying and close to the railing of an approximately 15-foot drop from a loft.
Thanks for watching. And here's another video.
Okay, wow.
Click right here to subscribe.
So okay, let me get my notes. So that was the 6-year-old crying. Oh my gosh. I did not know that. I hadn't seen, I had 3 stories that, 3 news footages that I looked at yesterday for this live, and I just assumed that they would be right here, and they're not. So I just picked this is the second one that I've chosen, and I did not know that the child was 5. The 6-year-old was the one that was found in the house, and she was crying. That is just so terrible. That's terrible. But I want to find, is this the one? No, this is not the one. Now I'm also, and just to be fair, there is a case, and I started to look it up for this live and prepare that one as well, because if this other couple, this is a black couple, and they adopted two little black boys, and I think they were like 4 and 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. And they alleged that these two boys wandered off from their property, wandered off, and come to find out months later, I didn't believe their story in the first place, but come to find out months later, they had unalived those two little boys and was lying to the police the whole time. So really, it can happen. You can have, the same racial background and adopt children, in common, and that happens. And that really ticked me off because they were little. I mean, what could those kids have done? Nobody deserves to be mistreated, but my goodness. And we're going to go ahead and look at this one. I don't think this is the one we just looked at.
Paying your bills on time raises your credit score, right?
And I want to pull up these different news footages because it seems like apparently when you watch different ones, you learn something new about the case that you didn't know. Somebody needs to tell me about this YouTube Prime, because why do I have commercials?
The adopted mother of 5 children, accused of keeping some of them in a locked shed in Sissonville, was back in court today. And we got our first look into the shed where 2 teenagers were found.
Okay, here's the shed.
Now, despite attempts from her attorney to reduce Jeannie Whitefeather's bond, it will remain at $200,000. Anna Saunders joins us live in the studio to walk us through what was argued. Anna?
That's right. Whitefeather's new attorney, Mark Plants, came to court today with pictures of the shed in Sissonville, calling it a teen clubhouse and hangout. He also brought Whitefeather's brother, who took these photos, and testified there was a key found in the shed a week and a half later that would have allowed the children to get out. These claims, though, not enough for Judge Mary Claire Akers to lessen the bond. In an unusual move for a bond hearing, Jeannie Whitefeather's new defense attorney, Mark Plants, called a witness to the stand, Whitefeather's brother, to make the argument that the case where children were found locked in a barn in Sissonville has been misrepresented.
On its face, sounds atrocious. However, there are 2 sides to every story.
Whitefeather's brother, Mark Hughes, also from Washington State but recently moved to Chesapeake, Ohio, testified that on the phone, Whitefeather told him there was a key in the shed for the kids to let themselves out. A week and a half after Whitefeather and her husband were arrested, Hughes visited the shed and took these photos of the inside, including this one, showing a key on the table.
That is the key, exactly how we found it. And when I saw it, I went, holy crap, is that really the key to this door? And how could the police possibly have gone through this and not noticed this key 3 feet from the door?
Assistant prosecuting attorney Fawn Cushman asking a similar question, pointing out that it had been a week and a half after the arrest had been made that these photos had been taken, alleging there was no proof this key was there the day of the arrest.
I don't know how it got there.
And you have absolutely no idea the condition that the children were found in when the police arrived, because you weren't there.
I was not there at the time, but I've spent an awful lot of time around these children.
Hughes testified that the last time he saw the children was at the beginning of September. The children told deputies that being locked in the shed was an everyday thing. A neighbor who called 911 that day said she had witnessed them being locked inside that day and had raised several concerns prior about the children's well-being. A responding deputy recently testified that the conditions inside were repulsive, with a smell that made her eyes water.
If there was a key on the desk that allowed her to enter and exit the shed, then why were the police outside for 2 hours and had to force entry?
Plants responded by arguing the possibility that children's statements to police were not credible and that they could have gotten out the whole time.
There's a key inside, and the 14 and 16 want their teenage clubhouse to go down there and play around. And a jury will make that decision. Thank you.
Judge Mary Claire Akers, however, siding with the state, arguing that Whitefeather, who moved here about a year ago from Washington State, was a flight risk, and if she owned a house valued at $375,000 with plans to move to Beckley, finances should not be a concern.
$200,000 cash is necessary. I understand what you're saying about the strengths and weaknesses of the case, Mr. Plants, but I cannot ignore that these pictures were taken a week and a half afterwards.
Now, Donald Lance, Whitefeather's husband, was also charged with felony gross child neglect. Right now, they are considered co-defendants, but Lance has not had a court appearance since his arrest. Both cases are set to be presented to a grand jury. Live in the studio, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
We have more great Eyewitness News investigates right here. Subscribe and hit the bell notification to have the latest up.
Okay, wow. That's interesting. I was not growing up, I did not have a clubhouse, but my father, I grew up in a pretty decent sized house. Our basement was huge, and my father had fixed it up. He had carpeted, he put laminate floor down, carpeting, he put what do you call it? I guess sheetrock or something on the walls. It was painted. There was a whole like living room set down there. He had a bar down there, a refrigerator. We had toys down there. It was just everything down there. And that was only one side. Then the other side, there was exercise equipment and, just stuff like that, sewing machine. So, and when I was growing up, this is where you went. Like if he had his friends and he wanted to do, it had also Atari down there, who, for those of you old enough to remember Atari, boombox and all that. So sometimes he would go down there with his friends and play the Atari and drink liquor or whatever. If I had friends over, we would go down there, play games. I mean, it was just a place that if you were entertaining and you wanted to entertain with just your friends or whatever, you can hang out there. It was like a man cave, a kid's cave. It was an all around cave for everybody to enjoy. And that's where we went. Now that was a hangout. And eventually, when I got a little older, he had put we had an extra bed, so he had even put a bed down there. So there was stuff to do in this basement. You're gonna try to tell me that this barn that these children were in, that had absolutely no flooring, nothing. Y'all saw the inside of the barn, and they're going to say that was like a clubhouse, a hangout for these children. Are you serious? So, needless to say, the judge, she wasn't buying it either. And the brother going along and saying that was the key, that key was there the whole time, but yet and still the what do you call it? The police were out there all that time trying to figure out how to get in. So you're trying to tell me that these children were there and they didn't have sense enough to say, hey, there's a key here. Come on. Don't do that. Don't even do that. Now, if I could just figure out how to stop sharing. Where's the stop sharing thing? Y'all, I can't find oh, here we go. Stop screen. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that's what I wanted to bring to you. And I'm looking at you guys' comments. And you know what, Deborah C., Deborah C. says, why not have the children in the house? I'm sure the police took pictures and maybe the key wasn't there. I don't believe the key was there. And Deborah C., I don't think they had the children in the house because I don't think they wanted them in there. They did not want them in there at all. And they were doing exactly what they wanted to do with them. Now, Bald-headed Heathen made a comment that I can't get to, but I'm going to read it. She said, clearly this happens. It's the blanket statement for me, though. This is more isolated than all time, I think. I want to say, I hope that this is isolated and that it's not happening all of the time when children are adopted. It's terrible. I don't. The thing about children, they don't ask to be created. They don't ask to be here, but people have them, and they are. And not only do people mistreat their own children, they apparently go out and adopt children and mistreat them. So I just like to think that there are more people out there that are good than not. There's a couple that I watch on YouTube sometimes. Usually they're shorts. I don't watch their videos because I don't have patience for watching family videos. I don't know why, but and case in point is the what was her name? Frank, I can't think of her name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The one who was mistreating her own kids, who had that big YouTube channel. But anyway, there's this couple that sometimes I look at their shorts, and they have a little black girl that they adopted, and they are a white couple. And one thing I could say, when I look at their videos and stuff, one of the things I could truly say is they truly love that little girl. They truly do. I look at the way they treat her. The mom, she's always they do things. They travel all over the world. I don't even think that they stay in one place too long, but they travel all over. And this girl looks happy. She acts happy. I mean, this woman, I'm gonna tell you, I can't do little girls' hair. Never, that's just never been my thing. But I want to tell you, this woman be putting some braids and beads in that little girl's hair and stuff. She washes, condition, all of those things. So I know that you can get a child and adopt them, and no matter what race they are, love them. But unfortunately, there are some people who don't. And there's also a woman on here, a couple actually. They're married, and they have, I think, two biological children of their own. And then they adopted like two black children, and then they adopted two white children. Now, the thing that surprised me is that two black people were allowed to adopt white children. I just thought I would never see something like that happen. But, apparently it does, and it did, because if you look online, you'll see that there are a lot of black families who adopt white children for different reasons. Some get them when they're babies. Some, I saw one couple where they adopted a little white boy and girl because they were brother and sister, and they did not want them split up in foster care, because that happens a lot where you're split up. It's not every day that you either get fostered in the same home as your sibling or even adopted as siblings. So, yeah, that's what the conversation is all about. It's the transracial adoption. And it, like I said, it goes both ways. It can go both ways. As for these people, I really want to see them in jail. And we only know right now what we know. They haven't even been to trial. So who knows what other kind of secrets or other things that we're going to find out. And I'm very interested in that trafficking charge, the one that talks about, what does it say again? Let me look at it. The child neglect, creating substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death. I am very curious about that charge because I want to know what went on there. And I'm pretty sure that the investigators will, but I hope that there's an extensive background check from where they came from, like what's going on there, where they moved from. And they tried to say that their neighbors, like all of the neighbors on the street where they live, they tried to say that they didn't like them. And so that's why they were doing this to them, is because they didn't like them. So that's their excuse. And that two sides to every story, you know, like when they were trying to say that, oh, there was a key in there, they could have gotten out, they weren't trapped. Okay, let's run with that. Let's say there was a key there. Let's say there really was a key in there and these two could get out. What about the sores that they had on their feet? Both children had sores on their feet. What about the 6-year-old who is locked in a loft by herself and she's very scared, probably hungry, and all of those things? What about that? What about that? Now, the husband, I thought that they both got out on that $200,000 bond. That's what I thought. But apparently, I thought wrong because they said that he hasn't been to court yet. But I didn't know that. I thought that he had gotten bond and I thought they were both out. And then when they went back to court in June, they both got held and it got raised. But apparently I was wrong about that. So no, he hasn't even been to court. And I mean, she just has a little like arrogant attitude about her too, about the whole entire thing, and it just ticks me off. I cannot wait for this to go to court. If they put their trial, if it's on the internet, I am definitely going to stream it because that is one that I really want to see. I want all the ins and outs and details of that. And I want to see, I hope that they call the neighbors and stuff like that as witnesses, the ones that called the police and kept calling protective services who apparently did nothing. I wonder, did they even come out? And I also wonder, were these children adopted in West Virginia or were they adopted from where they used to live? And wasn't that was a nice house too. Let me see if I see anything else. Now, to my surprise, Law and Crime did not have a whole lot on them. And that surprised me because I really expected to see Law and Crime do something, but they really didn't. They had like a little short thing on them. And other than that, that was all they had. So that's my take on this case in transracial adoption. Of course, you're innocent until proven guilty, but my eyes can't unsee what has been presented to me thus far. Also, another thing I am interested in is the original indictment, the 17 count indictment. I would be very interested in seeing that so that I could see what those 17 charges are versus, I don't know if the ones that they added on were just those 3 charges, but so we're looking at a 20 count indictment. I would really like to see the indictment of these people and what exactly is on there. Let me see. Let me go over to, if y'all bear with me 1 second, I'm going to look for the story on, since we're talking about adoption. And to be fair, the story about the couple who adopted the 2 little black boys. Let me see, couple. Let me give y'all some music while I look. While I search that up. Okay, I got them. They are from somewhere in California, Bakersville, California. And let me go and see if there is anything in, or I know it's stuff on YouTube about them because that's where I saw the story, but we're going to go over there and see what we can find on them. And they adopted, his name was Therese and her name was Jacqueline and their name was West. They adopted um, two biological brothers, Orrin, who is age 4, and Orson, who was age 3. So I'm gonna see if I can what we can find on them since we are talking about adoption. And then also, like I said, to be fair, we will go ahead and see how even same racial adoption can happen. Okay, YouTube. Let me put their names in. Tourette. Oh my gosh. TRE. Here we go. And they have since been found guilty, thank goodness. That's a lot of stuff on them. See, y'all see right here the two little boys right there on the screen. They are, and you know something else, and I know not every family can do it, but it's nice if you have, say, for example, because I have a cousin, she has two children that are my cousins that she adopted because the mother was on substances. So, let me see. Oh, goodness. There's so much stuff on them. I just want a basic news story. Let me see. Here we go.
Your child needs these three
I'm
factors to
annoyed.
get into an Ivy League or top 25
These
university.
darn commercials
And
that
it's
are not
having a
supposed to
good
be there.
GPA or SAT score.
Here we go.
In other news, 2 parents have now been charged with the murders of a case of their missing adopted sons in the Antelope Valley. In December of 2020, Trezell and Jacqueline West told investigators 4-year-old Orrin and 3-year-old Orson disappeared from their backyard. After an extensive investigation, today the Kern County District Attorney revealed the boys have been declared dead and actually died 3 months before they were even reported missing.
Oh my God.
This is not the outcome that we and so many had hoped and prayed for over the last year. We now realize that the search for the boys began after the real tragedy had already occurred. And there will not be a resolution completely in this case until these boys are brought home.
The parents are facing second-degree murder and child abuse charges. Both are expected to appear in court tomorrow. The boys' bodies have not been found.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7
That is so
content by
trifling.
clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC7
So
Los Angeles.
trifling. So yeah, these are two. Well, she's not. I don't know what she is, but he's a black man adopting black boys and doing this to, having done that to them, and then lying about it. Is this news? Let me see. Let's look at this one.
house. I saw them there.
Somebody knows something.
They could be anywhere.
I came back out. I didn't see him there.
Y'all was supposed to take care of my nephew.
The tension in this community is just raising.
Things like this don't just happen out here.
It's been 20 days,
For more than 100 days.
10 months since the West brothers went missing.
Have we searched the house? Absolutely. The backyard? Absolutely.
They will be found. And that's all I want is to find my babies.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of 23 ABC News. I'm Kitty Van Middendorf. Well, it's been 1 year since two young boys, 3-year-old Orson West and 4-year-old Oren West, were reported missing. Tonight, we take you through our coverage of the case over the past 365 days as investigations continue with law enforcement. Meanwhile, the question we've all been asking this past year is, where are the boys? But what about who were the boys? 23 ABC's Kristen Barton spoke to family members who shared their memories of Oren and Orson West.
I was changing his diaper, and when I was changing his diaper, he was just staring at me, and I asked him what was he staring at. He just started screaming out of nowhere and started laughing. It was funny. I was at home by myself with him.
Charles Pettis is the biological father to Classic, later named Orson West. But he's reflecting on a moment with Sincere, later named Oren. And while Oren West wasn't his biological son, he was part of the family.
If he had another baby, and it's just another part of me that I had to take care of. And I didn't spend a lot of time with him before all this stuff happened, and they came and took him away.
Pettis holds on to what little time he got with those two kids before they were put into foster care and eventually adopted.
I try to stay strong for my brother, We just want answers and justice, that's it. Yeah, it's hard to talk about with me. Yeah, I get emotional, but.
And then taken away again.
Some kind of answers. It's been a year. We deserve something.
Yes, yes.
That's. It's only right. It's only right.
I'm curious as to children are taken away from their parents for a variety of reasons. I'm curious as to why. Okay, you have a father. That's him. Okay, he couldn't take the children, or at least his son, the one that is his. I just wonder, was there like nobody on either side of the family who could have taken these children? And it looks like there were more than just those two. There were, I don't know if there was 2 more or 3 more that I saw in that photo, but I just wonder what happened in the family that there was like nobody who could take the children and they had to go into foster care.
As Orson's biological aunt Kiki Hort says, Tuesday marks the anniversary that adoptive parents Jacqueline and Trezell West reported the brothers missing. Since then, Pettis and Hort's biological cousin Rosanna Wills says there have been countless searches, monthly candlelight prayers, and unanswered questions.
That's the thing. There's $125,000 on the line. Nobody's claimed it. Nobody spoke up. There's so many tips. Nothing. There's so much support around the world. Nothing. So it's like when you have all of this and we don't have nothing.
Now here we are at Casa Loma Apartments. This is where officials say that
Deborah C., you stepped up and raised your nephew. I mean, right. I can tell you that happens more than less in my family, where other people are raising other people's children, but they are in the family.
the West family moved to California City. While we were unable to get a hold of the adoptive parents of the boys, Trezell and Jacqueline West, this is what they had to say to us in a previous interview about what they meant to them.
I'm completely sorry because we were entrusted with our children, and they came to us, and they became our children. We named them, and they are our children. We so we want them back.
The biological
Yeah, they had been deceased for 3 months before they were even reported missing, where they allegedly walked out the yard. But here's the thing on that. So Jacqueline and Trezell West, where's their family or friends? You mean there was nobody in their family or friends or circle who was suspicious for those 3 months before the boys were reported missing? There was nobody who was suspicious as to where are the boys at. So that's just weird to me.
family says that while there were events leading up to the boys being placed into the foster care system and eventually adopted, those events were misunderstandings and an accident. And now they have questions for the adoptive parents.
If you followed the case, like you would see pictures, like they was more happy at home than they was with them. And if they loved them, like still to this day, can we get one updated picture? Something that's going to show what they looked like when they had them? That's all.
Will says the family refuses to give up the search until they find answers, and that their love for the boys and each other keeps them going.
It's been a year, 365 days. Imagine going missing for a day.
You know, I still got them. They should know that I still love them, that I'm always going to have their backs regardless to the fact those are my kids. Like, that's something that you will miss in life that you can never get back.
In Bakersfield, Kristen Barton, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
Drinking warm water before bed balances
again.
Blood sugar levels and reverses type 2. Thousands of people are apparently regaining control of their blood sugar
This
every
nonsense. Okay, so yeah, that's their story. Here they were. They adopted these children, and that's just, it's actually terrible. It's really terrible that this happened to them. But there are people who stop sharing. There are people who step up and raise the children in the family, and apparently there are people who don't. So it's just sad. But that is it. That's all I had for tonight's live. We have been going for, I don't know why this is still up here. Okay, we have been going for just about an hour. So unless anybody has anything else, that's it. Anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to say? I appreciate everybody who was here. I appreciate everybody for being here. I appreciate your thoughts and everything. And y'all take care. I might be back a little bit later, maybe with something special. I'm not sure. But anyway, y'all have yourselves a good night. And I thank you for being here.